Hey gang, what's up? Aaron here, Canadian Looney. Good to see you. Smash the like, hit subscribe. It's going to be great to get together with the gang again. House is back in session as of a couple of hours ago, and we've got some videos of things that have happened. That's what we do here on the live show. We do other things with our regular videos, but the live show, we show all the things that happen in not in question period, in the House of Commons, in Parliament, and the Senate, like outside of what happens in question period. And there's a lot of information to learn here. Like, I like showcasing this stuff because Canadians can make up their own minds. They just need to see these guys in action to know, get a better sense of what's going on. Anyhow, welcome back everybody. Smash the like, hit subscribe. We've got a great show lined up. We'll slip right into question period in time. We're probably going to pay a couple of minutes more attention to the statements today, but let's take a peek. We've got some great clips from things that happened in committees this morning. Like, that's what I'm talking about. We watch all of the frontline politics. Like, this bullshit on the news is bullshit on the news. Watch the politics, and we do that right here. We cover it all the time, and it's fun. And we've got an amazing chat room, so jump right in there. Like, if you're like, oh, I'm not sure how I'll be received in here, say hello. Check it out. Like, dip your toe. Anyhow, we'll get right into this. We've got a great show lined up.
In Canadian federal politics, the Canucks are represented by two separate yet unequal groups. The globalists who sold out and the opposition trying to salvage a country. These are their stories.
Ms. Kuzi will kick us off this year. Thank you.
Let's go.
Earlier this month, the Prime Minister announced a new Canada-China strategic partnership. On many fronts, this concerns me, but specific to this meeting, I'm concerned about Canada's cybersecurity and the protection of our private information. In 2024, I was informed by IPAC through the FBI that I had been the target of a cyber attack orchestrated by the PRC. I had been targeted because of my status as a member of Parliament. And as the Canadian government begins a new economic relationship with the PRC, I'm concerned with how our government assesses these new strategic partnerships with non-democracies on the world stage. Madame Xavier, can you please share with this committee what measures your agencies and departments are taking to ensure the cybersecurity and protection of sensitive data as we enter new agreements with governments like the PRC?
Thank you for the question. So, as mentioned in my opening remarks, CSC holds multiple mandates within one agency. One being the foreign intelligence collection that we do to be able to ensure that decision makers have the information they require to make decisions. And that is something we've been doing for almost 80 years. The other part of our mandate is the cybersecurity or cyber defense part of our mandate. And one other part of our mandate is the foreign cyber operations mandate. And having all those elements within one agency really help us to ensure that what we learn from a foreign intelligence SIGINT collection is able to be used in the defense of Canada and vice versa. All the billions of incidents that we protect against in the defense of Canada allows us to learn about threat actors that have potential interests in Canada. And that then feeds what we can do on the foreign intelligence part of the mandate. In addition to that, in foreign cyber operations, we're able to take actions in cyberspace, in the foreign cyberspace, to be able to ensure that we're continuing to protect Canada. So we operate under cabinet-approved intelligence priorities, which are reviews on a regular basis. And as it is now, our mandate includes protecting Canada's critical infrastructure, democratic institutions, and whether it's nation states or cyber criminals, that is part of the mandate that we operate on a regular basis, 24/7, 365 days of the year. And so we remain committed to being to ensure that we do our job effectively. I am pleased and proud of the fact that we lead an organization that puts out world-class cyber defense. And the work that we do in collection with our partners, both at Treasury Board and SSC, allows us to continue to protect Government of Canada systems.
Thank you very much for that extensive answer. You mentioned that you have protected billions of network interceptions. However, it is apparent to me by the experience that I had, as well as several others, members of parliament, that the most cunning of evil operators are still able to penetrate the system, which is very concerning to me. You had mentioned the implication of other decision makers. Are there ministers who have given you this direction specifically, and who would those ministers be, please?
So again, thank you for the opportunity to clarify. So our intelligence priorities are driven by the Cabinet of the Government of Canada, and our intelligence priorities actually—
Which Cabinet members, please?
The full Cabinet is who endorses the intelligence priorities of the Government of Canada.
But who provides the direction, please?
The full Cabinet provides a direction led by the Prime Minister of the country. And as a result, what we've done as well is we've published the intelligence priorities so that people, Canadians, have an opportunity to understand what are the priorities that we have. And the priorities are fairly broad, and we are able to work to those priorities in the work that we do.
Thank you very much, Madame Xavier. I'm not getting a lot of good, clear information in terms of what those priorities are and how they are implemented, but thank you. Mr. Hayes, your report from October is not the first to focus on cybersecurity, and as the importance of technology continues to grow, I'm sure it will not be the last, unfortunately. Do you believe hostile actors like the PRC could attempt to act on the security gaps that you mention within this report?
Thank you. There's no doubt that the government faces attacks every day. Indeed, they're stopping billions and trillions every year. So I think that the message from our report is that vigilance and rigor need to be at the top of the mind of every government organization. To us, one of the big findings in our report is that not every federal organization is required to use the services that shared services and communication security establishment provide. That is, in our view, a missed opportunity.
Thank you for that. Monsieur Champ, over the past year, the government has placed a focus on artificial intelligence and the use of it both within and outside of government. With AI comes a world of opportunity, but also a world of unknowns. How can Canadians be confident their confidential information will be secure and private if your department can't even get federal organizations to follow the existing rules and policies surrounding cybersecurity?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. Sorry about let me just say the challenge remains that the Financial Administration Act, Section 7, grants Treasury Board authority to apply general administrative policies, such as the policy on government security, the policy on service and digital, and those policies are applicable to departments and agencies that fall according to a certain schedule. That's how the legislative framework is set up, and therefore we cannot impose on agents of Parliament or Crown corporations.
That's not very efficient or effective if you can't impose.
Admittedly, come back to you.
Thank you. Merci beaucoup. Thank you, Chair. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Suivant. Up next is.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming today, and Happy New Year. My first question would be for
just a quick shout out to my man, Rory Kennedy. Good to see you, man.
The Chief, Ms. Carolyn Xavier. So in a quote that you had said earlier in some documents, you had said that the rise of AI-enabled cyber threats poses significant challenges to our democratic process. What countries would you identify as bad actors for that?
I believe that the quote that you're talking to is from our document of the threats to democratic processes, I suspect. And so as we do on almost every 2 years as well, put out a publication that's called Threats to Democratic Processes, where we assess what we learn from a global perspective. What are the threats that could be of concern, especially if one's going to have a general election or municipal or provincial elections. And so we look at it purely from the cyber threat activity targeting these elections. And so in general, we tend to see actions such as DDoSes, mis and disinformation, manipulation of online systems, and things of that nature. And in that—
Sorry, just I have limited time. So you're saying it's global. There's no specific countries that you would pinpoint?
So what I was going to say is that in that threat to democratic processes, we have highlighted that Russia and China are most attributed cyber threat activity targeting foreign elections, and that is on a global stage. Important to take that note.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your answer. Thank you. My next question is for Mr. Gupta. You were also quoted as saying malicious actors are increasingly leveraging AI to enhance the scale and sophistication of their activities, including those that threaten our democratic institutions. Could I get your opinion or your expert opinion on what countries would those be as well?
I mean, I would refer to the exact same document that the chief mentioned, which is our threats to democratic processes. I mean, that's from a democratic perspective. At the same point in time, I mean, AI is democratizing this capability, and I think that more and more countries will continue to stand up the ability because it's easier and easier for countries to be able to take advantage of it.
And what would you agree with the chief then? It would be China and Russia would probably be the two main, amongst others, obviously. I'm sure. I fully respect that it is a global issue, but I'm trying to pinpoint on a few things. So as a conservative, our parties always has had concerns about these issues, and I want to commend you both for doing a great job, first and foremost. Now, as the Prime Minister looks to make new trade deals, it seems he's aggressively moving very quickly towards China. And more importantly, I don't want to use it's China, but for more important communication methods, let's call it the Chinese Communist Party. That's the real concern, as opposed to China and Chinese people. It's the Communist Party that governs that country. As a conservative, and many of my colleagues here, we're advised not to use things like TikTok, which 99% of MPs don't use for security reasons, which I'm sure you know all too well about. And Canadians can't buy Huawei phones. That the previous government addressed that, and I agreed with that. Now, there's a big concern about Chinese EVs. Not only will it be a threat to the auto sector in Ontario, but on a security level, Mr. Gupta, how do you feel, and what would you address? Is there a concern, and is there a threat to bringing in 50,000 Chinese EVs into our market?
From a security perspective, I mean, EVs are similar to other technology platforms. I mean, we've given out advice and guidance in terms of the increasing digitalization of critical infrastructure in general. I think that's something we need to keep a view on right across the board because everything is becoming connected to the internet. With respect to EVs, we have, supply chain guidance. We have national cyber threat assessments. We have all those things that we publish regularly on our website, and I think that we continue to communicate these threats to Canadians. Supply chain is one of the documents that we have in there as well. We also have advice and guidance as to the secure communications of vehicles as well, that we post as well. So all of that advice and guidance, I think it was mentioned earlier, you need layered defenses, but you need to understand exactly, what situation you're actually deploying the technologies in and what mitigations you put in place. For, applications that we recommend that are, perhaps not as secure as you'd be considering, there's mitigations you can put in place, such as turning off Bluetooth and doing different sorts of things.
There be a heightened risk, though, in fact, that we can't use TikTok and Huawei, and some of our journalists and MPs have to use burner phones when they go visit the Chinese Communist Party. Is there a higher threat to those EVs, or is it standard?
Right across the board, we assess risk as a number of different elements. Part of it is supply chain. So you do look at laws of nations as it comes in. You look at technology and the quality and implementation of software, and then you look at legal and reputational risks as well. That's our typical assessment of products. Putting all those things together gives you a general risk. So you'll have products that are developed certain ways that will have vulnerabilities based on technical deficiencies. You'll have.
Thank you. That is the time.
Thank you very much.
Mr.
I appreciate
Pierre.
your answers.
Up next is Ms. Tester-Dirksen. You have the floor.
Sorry, 5 minutes.
So with respect to the over-the-horizon radar, where are the installations going to be in Ontario, and why are they going to be there, as opposed to existing installations that are already owned by D&D?
Thank you for the question. So the search for appropriate locations for the radar was an exhaustive search. The requirements are very inflexible and complicated. And we assessed in total over 500 sites since 2022. And we started with D&D lands and landed on the locations that are identified in Kawartha Lakes Township and Clearview Township.
Okay, how long is the existing north warning system going to be operational? So I'm looking at what gap exists between once that's up and running, the one in Ontario, and the ones that are up and running now.
I can start, and thank you for the question. I can start and perhaps pass it to General Spicer Blanchette. The North Warning System continues to be operational. In terms of over time, we will reassess that capability and the individual stations to determine which ones can continue to perform and contribute to the overall system of systems for surveillance for North America. Perhaps.
Okay. The U.S. ambassador to Canada said that recently if we weren't going to buy the F-35s, then the U.S. would have to fill in the gaps we have left. Can you explain what those gaps that would be left behind would be if we were to cancel the F-35s for an inferior fighter jet?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. So right now, the gaps that we are addressing with NORAD modernization are focused a lot on the radar systems that we've been speaking of. And so as mentioned, the North Warning System does provide a certain coverage, and then the Arctic Over-the-Horizon Radar will actually fill in a very wide swath in addition to that. There will also be more ability from the space side to be able to detect. The fighter capability is as a fifth-gen fighter, the F-35 provides the lethality and survivability against the known threats that are being developed by adversaries, and therefore those the gaps that would be created would simply be related to the technology that the adversaries are developing that we would not have at hand.
Okay, with respect to data infrastructure and communications infrastructure, and there are new systems that need to be brought up. What stage of the contracts are there at with respect to the radio and data links? Have there been tenders put out for the communications infrastructure in the Arctic yet? And not satellite, radio and data.
Thank you for
so
the
that
question.
the F-35s could operate if we get them.
Thank you for the question. I mentioned earlier the construction work that, the design and construction work that is going to start in the forward operating locations. That will include IM-IT upgrades to ensure that there's communications infrastructure in place.
The question, Mr. Chairman, was about contracts. Have any been put out to tender yet? Has there been a request for proposals? Where are we at with actually getting this infrastructure in place?
So, Mr. Chair, I can expand somewhat on the RCF Air Communications Expansion project known as RACE, which covers part of that. There's no one contract that covers everything. It's certainly a combination of several factors. But this project will deliver modernized radio network to improve the performance and sustainability of many aspects of the Canadian air defense sector enterprise, and it is meant to be initial operational capability by 2031. So I don't have information on specific contracts. However, that is well in hand, and progress is being made on the projects, and an update could be provided separately.
Originally, the first Canadian delivery of the F-35 was supposed to be in 2026, but now it's 2028. Why that difference?
So, Mr. Chair, the first Canadian F-35 will be delivered in 2026 to Luke Air Force Base, and Canadian aircrew will start flying on it. The first Canadian F-35 that will be delivered to Canada in one of our wings is going to be in 2028 after a sufficient number of pilots and technicians have been trained and sufficient infrastructure is in place to support it in Cold Lake. The first phase is Cold Lake, and then subsequent years and developments will move and it will then be delivered to Bagotville.
Okay, so recently the commander of NORAD said that China and Russia have increased their cooperation in the Arctic, whether it be sea or air intrusions. How integrated is the operation and the cooperation of those two military forces, in your opinion?
Thank you for the question. They have not been. They've been working together, as we've seen. So.
That we are resuming debate. The honourable member for Nanaimo, Lady Smith, has 6 minutes.
Madam Speaker, I want to welcome everyone back to this place, including those Canadians watching at home. And I'm pleased to rise on our first day back to contribute to this debate on Bill C-228. Et je veux commencer.
And I would like to start by thanking my honourable colleague from the Bloc Québécois who put this bill forward.
The context for this bill is important because it concerns how we as Parliament understand our role in relation to international commitments that can bind Canada for decades, shape domestic law, and affect the lives of Canadians in very real ways. It's particularly timely as Canada seeks to forge new relationships during a precarious national affairs, development, and trade. Bill C-228 proposes a new statutory framework for parliamentary scrutiny of treaties before ratification. It would require treaties to be formally tabled here in Parliament, along with an explanatory memorandum before Canada can ratify them. It would establish a mandatory waiting period of at least 21 sitting days between tabling and ratification. It would define major treaties and require them to receive additional review and advice from our committees. It would also impose additional transparency obligation, including publication of treaties and related documents, while allowing for limited exceptions in urgent or exceptional circumstances, provided that Parliament is informed afterwards. These are significant proposals, and they raise important questions about balance. Balance between efficiency and accountability, balance between executive authority and parliamentary oversight, and between Canada's need to act decisively on the world stage and Parliament's responsibility to scrutinize commitments made in Canada's name before they happen. One strength of this bill is its attempt to bring clarity and consistency to a process that often feels opaque. Canada's current treaty policy, enacted in 2008 and updated in 2020, doesn't require treaties to be tabled before signature, only before ratification. This policy provides some visibility to the House, but little formal influence. Ultimate authority remains with the Prime Minister and Cabinet. This policy is known as the Ponsonby Rule, and it was adopted from the UK, where it has been in place since 1924 and was codified there into a law not dissimilar to this bill by the Constitutional and Reform and Governance Act in the UK in 2010. The information provided here when treaties are tabled varies, and the opportunities for meaningful debate are often limited by time or by competing priorities here in the House. Our current process doesn't provide Parliament with much of a
objectives are reflected in this bill. It has garnered the support of law enforcement, of victims advocates, and Canadians in every part of the country. My only ask of members of this House is that they loan their support to this important bill as well. Thank you, and grand merci.
Questions and comments, honourable member for Kamloops, Thompson-Nicola.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's always a pleasure to rise on behalf of the people from Kamloops, Thompson-Nicola, and in this context, the greater Canadian public. I want to wish a warm welcome back to this chamber to everybody, to the Minister of Justice. Merci pour votre discours.
Thank you for your speech.
I have a question, and that relates to firearms. Now, Madam Speaker, we have seen the Liberals preside over an unprecedented proliferation of firearms usage. I checked the bill, I did a search, and there's one provision that deals with extortion, and it mentions a an aggravating factor. Now, this government in Bill C-5 said that people who do extortion with a firearm, people who do drive-by shootings, in fact, can serve their sentence on house arrest. Does the minister not agree that people who do drive-by shootings should be subject to the previous mandatory minimum of 4 years for that offence and for extortion with a firearm? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister.
Look, thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank my honourable colleague for his question, but for our work together on issues that are common to this bill with his own private member's bill, which I know are a priority for him. This bill does, in addition to the measures he referenced, include certain measures around firearms, including the denial of licenses to those who have a history of gender-based violence and the need to return a firearm if your license has been revoked. But on his particular question, it's important to point out that extortion with a firearm, for example, can in fact carry a mandatory minimum in Canada. We also don't want to confuse difference between mandatory minimums and aggravating factors, because we actually believe that extortion, in this case of a sexual nature, deserves a higher penalty. To the extent that there are proposals that members of this House have, the appropriate way to deal with ideas that they support that may be outside the scope of this bill is to have those advanced and debated at committee. To the extent that we receive advice from our parliamentary colleagues who will be considering this bill through the committee process, know that I would consider them in good faith. Thank you.
Questions and comments. The Honourable Member for Berthier-Mascounagier. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. The Honourable Member.
From the Honourable Member for...
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. First of all, I'll start by saying that I'm very concerned that this government refers to any cyber attack as innocuous. This is the security of our nation, which is further compromised. I'm very concerned in terms of the new level of the relationship, which is being developed by this Prime Minister. That's very concerning to me. So continuing with that, APT 31 that hacked parliamentarians was linked to China's intelligence service, as I indicated in the first round. In light of this funding, how can the CSC provide a guarantee that intelligence shared with China will not compromise Canadian cyber defense security?
Important, Mr. Chair, to recognize that no matter what amount of cyber defenses we put in place, which we have some great quality defense in place, we can never guarantee zero cyber incidences. Working in cyber defense is a team sport, one that we're doing with all the people at this table, but in addition, an individual role has to be played when one is doing what it needs to do to protect itself. There is no intelligence sharing that is underway with regards to the CCP or the PRC. We do work on a global stage with many intelligence entities as well as international bodies. That is part of what we do in the cyber defense space, because it is so important to learn from others how cyber defense works. I won't speak to the intent of the Prime Minister. I'll leave that for you all to discuss with him directly. But what I would say is that the role that CSC plays in terms of foreign intelligence collection is very important, in particular when decisions are made by government, so that they could be informed in terms of what the intent is of others. And so those are the insights that we provide in the work that we do, in addition to all the learnings we do from the many incidents that happen on a global scale and the sharing that we do with international bodies, including our Five Eyes, and the way in which we function both domestically and internationally.
Thank you very much for that response. I'll also add that, Prime Minister Harper had the capacity to manage our relationship to the South, a capacity that this current Prime Minister does not. And that's why he's been forced to go and kowtow to dictators around this world. So I just want to make that very clear. Harper had the capacity to manage that relationship. This Prime Minister does not. And that's why he's forced into the hands of dictators, as we have seen throughout this week. Can you confirm whether any technology produced by the Beijing state-owned companies, as my colleague has alluded to, will be blocked from being embedded into the Canadian cybersecurity operations? And I'm talking about the daily ones as well, of course.
As has been mentioned from my colleagues, part of the work we do is ensuring that any tools that we use in the cyber defense of Canada are tools that we trust and are minimizing any of the vulnerabilities that we're concerned about. And they go through rigorous testing, rigorous assessments, and as part of the procurement contracts, we outline clear conditions that must exist. So no matter what products we will use, no matter which country they come from, this forms the basis of the work that's required to be done, especially if we at CSC are going to use them, because we want to ensure that we continue to keep our systems secure. And so it matters to pay attention to the supply chain, as was mentioned earlier, and who are the potential contractors. And they have to still undergo a very rigorous process when it comes to cyber, when it comes to security, personnel security, especially if they're going to be working and employed by the communications security establishment.
Thank you. So every one of these 20,000 EVs will be evaluated for potential malware. Is this what I'm hearing?
This is not what I'm saying, Mr. Chair. What I am saying is that the question that was asked is whether or not we are assessing anything that's going to be used by the communication security establishment, and my answer to that is yes, we make sure to assess that. What I would add is that as part of the community that you see at this table, our jobs will be to ensure that we give our best advice to government when it comes to whatever systems they are going to use. The other thing I would add is that we work with critical infrastructure sectors, including the transportation sector, and they're the ones that will give the advice, I assume, to the government as to what is the best way to do the implementation of any EV vehicles. We have put advice out, as Mr. Gupta said earlier, with regards to connected devices, and we stand behind that advice, and we'll continue to learn and improve our advice as we get more and more informed. This is where Bill C-8 is really important, Mr. Chair, because one of the sectors in that is the transportation sector. And so if that bill passes, then we'll have a better understanding of what are the vulnerabilities. But in the meantime, we continue to work and build really great relationships with the transportation sector, and we have governance bodies what allows us to better understand what's going on there.
Thank you very much. That is the time. Up next, back to Ms. Yip. You have the floor for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you. Say that Mr. Harper was not negotiating with President Trump. And Prime Minister Carney is a pragmatist, and he's able to see that our economy really needs to be diversified. Now I'll go back to the report, and I'd like to ask the question to Mr. Jones and Ms. Xavier. This is in regards to the AG's report indicating that there was not a comprehensive, up-to-date inventory of all government IT devices, and such as laptops, smartphones, and servers. And while Shared Services Canada began to work to address this in 2017, the project has...
So I want to continue along with some questioning that I had earlier, but I want to address a few things. In this panel here, we've heard that alluded to that former Prime Minister Harper did trade with China and the canola. Now, canola, I understand, the former Prime Minister Harper, it did not have AI cyber threats like we do today, and 50,000 EV cars weren't in question coming into our country. So I want to address that. And EVs is a whole other topic. So today we're talking about cybersecurity, and that's what we're going to stick to. So I have something here from the National Cybersecurity Threat Assessment 2025-26, and it says the PRC conducts cyber operations against Canadian interests to serve high-level political and commercial objectives, including espionage, intellectual property theft, malignant influence, and transnational repression. Among our adversaries, the PRC cyber program's scale, tradecraft, and ambition in cyberspace are second to none. I find it concerning that we're fielding proper questions that Canadians want to know, and the government, representatives from the other side, are not. This is a real threat. At the end of the day, if the Prime Minister didn't go onto the world stage and tell the whole world he's going to do business with the Chinese Communist Party with open arms, we wouldn't be asking these questions today. So on that, I have a direct question to the Chief, please. Is Canada ready to have an open arms approach to the Chinese Communist Party on a cyber security level? Or do we need to have a more heightened or robust or level up to keep Canada secure?
So thank you for the question. I would say what I would have said even before this conversation that's being had today, that Canada is not immune to the threats of hostile state actors, cyber criminals, hacktivists. This is what our National Cyber Threat Assessment has stated.
I agree with you, ma'am, but in light of the Prime Minister going on a world stage and virtue signaling that China, the Chinese Communist Party is where we call into my office, it is a concern. There's lots of reports, even the former Liberal government can't use Huawei phones and this, that, and identified, and you yourself have identified China as one of, amongst many. Surely we have to have a heightened sensitivity based on the direction that we're going. Yet, I'm not asking for concrete answers. I know this just happened in a week or two, but this has to be formulating in your minds to keep Canada safe. That's why I asked that question. This is a clear path forward to do business with the Chinese Communist Party, not only on canola and maybe they buy our LNG, which we can all get our heads around, but there are severe cybersecurity risks on what Chinese goods we're going to bring in or Chinese Communist Party goods we're going to bring in. So things are changing, and you are the expert, thank you, and I do recognize that, but as the calls I'm getting, things have changed from 2 weeks ago. Are we ready to deal with that, or what steps do we take to better deal with that?
I think needing to be ready as an institution, as a government, as a country is something we always need to be doing, because the threats that we see are constantly emerging and pivoting. And so part of what we do at the Communication Security Establishment is prepare for that. We analyze that, and we take it from what we learned from the foreign intelligence perspective as well as what we learned from the cyber defense perspective. And so the work that I do with my Treasury Board colleagues as well as my Shared Services colleague is really important to ensure that the Government of Canada systems continue to be prepared to defend against any threat. It is factual that we see the threats evolving. It's factual that we see that threat actors are pivoting.
We want a mic. A mic helps. We're going to cross over to question period now. I think that today's statements might be more interesting than other days, so we're going to check that out. Like, how do we get to there really quick? I think this is it. Oh, we've got it right here. This is going to be fun.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to honor a longtime member of this House, Jesse Fliss, who died earlier this month at the age of 92.
Here we go.
Jesse lived to serve. Born in Saskatchewan to Polish immigrant parents, for more than two decades he served our community as an educator, including as principal of Argentina Public School, now Garden Avenue Public School in our riding. In 1979, Jesse heard the call to public service and was elected 4 times to serve the people of Parkdale High Park. In his almost 15 years as our Liberal Member of Parliament, Jesse was a champion of human rights, in particular for the emancipation of Polish people during their struggle against communism. And he was a driving force for the recognition of the National Flag of Canada Day, a flag whose 61st birthday we will celebrate on February 15th. After his retirement, Jesse served as chair of Copernicus Lodge on Roncesvalles Avenue, serving seniors, especially Polish background, with their healthcare needs. Jesse did all things in our riding and in this place with a strong spirit of mutual respect and a love of Canada. He leaves his wife Sophie and a large family, including 8 great-grandchildren. With them, we share our condolences and our thanks for sharing Jesse Fliss with us.
The Honourable Member for Chatham-Kent-Leamington.
On February the 4th, my parents, Abe and Susan Epp, will celebrate their 65th wedding anniversary. The world has changed in extraordinary ways since 1961. Humanity has landed on the moon and has survived a Cold War. Canada adopted its flag, and global adoption of the internet and mobile phones has transformed how people connect, work, and understand the world. Daily life today would be nearly unrecognizable to the young couple that began their journey all those years ago. Changes often arrive faster than anyone expected, and while technology and all facets of society have shifted, my parents built a life rooted in commitment, adaptability, and love. Their story reminds us that while the world may change at breathtaking speed, the values that truly matter, partnership, resilience, and care for one another, can endure and still give us hope and optimism for what lies ahead. Colleagues, please join me as I congratulate my parents on 65 years of space travel, smartphones, and surviving each other.
The Honourable Member for Guelph.
I rise to honour a hero, William Joseph Seifert. Bill joined the Army at 18 and trained as a gunner at Petawawa, but when he deployed to London, England, new recruits were made infantry. Bill became a Regina rifle and without training was sent to the front in France. He fought through France, Belgium, and the Netherlands, and served as a reconnaissance scout in Germany. By quickly returning a grenade, Bill saved his platoon at Leopold Canal. In peace as in war, Bill's service and kindness never wavered. He gave his all to his family and community and his comrades at the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 234, where he was a member for 78 years. In 2024, Bill proudly represented the Reginas at the unveiling of a rifleman statue in Normandy, with Her Royal Highness Princess Anne. On May 3rd, 2025, he celebrated his 100th birthday at the 80th anniversary of the liberation of the Netherlands. Seeing this country peaceful touched him deeply. On December 22nd, Bill passed away. William Joseph Seifert, Canada thanks you. We remember.
The honourable member for Richmond Hill South.
Today, I rise in solidarity with the brave people of Iran. Over the past few weeks, hundreds of thousands of Canadians have joined solidarity rallies across the country, including in Richmond Hill, where tens of thousands have gathered braving the cold winter storms to stand on the side of freedom. In recent weeks, tens of thousands of Iranians have been massacred, with many more injured and arrested by a regime that rules through fear. Fear of speaking, assembly, and simply being free. And yet, despite the executions, the beatings, the blackouts, and the bullets, the Iranian people continue to stand. They refuse to be silenced, knowing the cost, but believing freedom is worth it. The regime can shut down the internet, but it cannot shut down courage. It can imprison demonstrators, but it cannot imprison hope. Yet here at home, the Liberals offer empty words instead of action. To the people of Iran, you are not alone. The world sees you. Canada's Conservatives and Canadians stand with you. Your struggle is just. Your sacrifice will not be in vain, and your future belongs to you, not the tyrants. Today, the world watches. Tomorrow rises a free Iran and an Iran whose future belongs to its people.
Hear, hear. I would remind the member we're not supposed to be using props. L'honorable député.
The honourable member for Marc-Aurèle-Fortin. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon. After a few weeks in our ridings and a break from parliamentary business, we're back in the House of Commons, ready for a new year of work. I'd like to wish all of my colleagues a very happy new year. In 2025, we delivered tangible results, a more resilient economy, strategic investments to strengthen our industries, and clear measures to protect Canada's interests. We've chosen to take action, and we are strengthening our economic sovereignty. And we are supporting innovation here at home. As we begin this session, the message is simple. We will continue to invest, continue to protect our country, and continue to move forward with a strong Canada. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Prince Albert.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to congratulate Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe for not letting the Prime Minister sacrifice canola and pulse producers. Saskatchewan farmers know that market access to China has been low on the list of priorities for these Liberals. Thankfully, the Premier understands the simple truth. If you want to grow the Canadian economy, you must sell to the world. While the Premier is doing his part, the same cannot be said about this Liberal government. Trade deals are as strong as logistic networks supporting them. Exporters continue to face congested ports, limited rail capacity, and aging infrastructure. Years of underinvestment and regulatory delays have made Canada an unreliable supplier in the eyes of our trading partners. If the Prime Minister truly believes in expanding access to global markets, he must commit to serious, sustained modernization of our ports, rails, and export infrastructure. Saskatchewan knows how to sell to the world. Government must now do its part to expand markets.
The honourable member for Kanata.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize the extraordinary courage of the Iranian people who continue to stand for their dignity, their freedoms, and their fundamental right to determine their own future. The Iranian regime's brutal use of violence, arbitrary detention, and intimidation against peaceful protesters must end. Here in Canada, many Iranian Canadians are watching these events unfold and are heartbroken, worried for loved ones, grieving for those lost, and longing for a future free from fear. Canada's position is unequivocal. We condemn the Iranian regime's ongoing abuses and are in close coordination with our international partners to hold those responsible to account. To the people of Iran and to Iranian communities here in Canada, you are not alone. Canada stands with you. We hear your voices and we will not look away. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Elgin St Thomas, London South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tens of thousands of Canadians have been reaching out to members of Parliament over the winter break, telling the Liberals to set aside their divisive and toxic Bill C-9 and to stand up for the fundamental rights and freedoms of Canadians. I am pleased to report that today at the Justice Committee, we were finally able to get the Liberals to agree to set aside this divisive bill and focus on addressing real crime affecting communities across the country. Canadians have been demanding real action, fixing the broken Liberal bail system, addressing the rise in car thefts and extortion, going after people that are wreaking havoc on streets in this country, not people who dare to express a religious belief the government finds objectionable. Conservatives stand ready as always and look forward to working to fix this broken justice system in Canada. I'm glad the Liberals finally joined us.
The Honourable Member for La Pointe-de-L'Île. Mr. Speaker, Quebec lost one of its great patriots. Jean Dorion passed away after a lifetime devoted to the cause of Quebec independence. First, he was with the Early Independence Party, RIN. Then he was a founding member of the Parti québécois. Jean Dorion was Chief of Staff under René Lévesque, responsible for key issues such as immigration and enforcing the Charter of the French language. He chaired the Société Saint-Jean-Baptiste in Montreal, where I had the honour of working alongside him. He represented our nation as Quebec's delegate to Japan, then as a member of the Bloc Québécois here in Ottawa. Jean Dorion fought for his entire life for our language and culture, and for a Quebec that would reach out to everyone. On behalf of the Bloc Québécois, I would like to offer my condolences to his wife, to his 5 children, and to all of the independence activists who are carrying on his fight to make Quebec a country. The Honourable Member for Honoré-Mercier.
Speaker, I rise today to welcome members back to this House and mark the beginning of the new year. We are living in a time of profound global uncertainty. International rules are being challenged, long-standing institutions are under strain, and we are witnessing the emergence of power vacuums and growing instability across regions. In moments like these, Canada must be clear about who we are and what we stand for. This House must come together above partisanship.
You guys crack me up in the comments, man. It's hard to sit here and not laugh out loud.
In my writing of Honoré-Mercier have been clear that Canada or Greenland or Denmark belong to them and to them alone. We must stand firm in defense of our sovereignty. Canada will always remain a proud independent nation because, as Prime Minister reminded us, we have the capacity to build our strength at home and to act together. And Canada thrives because we are Canadian. I call on all members of this House to act together to defend Canada's sovereignty. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Dufferin-Caledon.
The Prime Minister recently flew to Davos, where he spoke to global elites at the World Economic Forum, and he said that a country unable to feed itself, fuel itself, and defend itself has few options. Here at home, Canadians need action, not carefully crafted speeches. Food inflation is up over 6%, and a record number of Canadians line up to use a food bank every single month, despite those empty words. The Liberals fast-tracked Bill C-5 to get major projects built, and yet nothing has been built, and the hope of a pipeline is fading very fast. Our armed forces are under-equipped and are in the midst of a recruiting crisis after 10 years of woke Liberal policies. Talk is cheap, Mr. Speaker. Canadians deserve real action, not carefully crafted words for the elites at Davos.
The Honourable Member for Milton East, Halton Hills South.
Mr. Speaker, recently I held a town hall in my riding to discuss our government's proposed legislation on public safety, including Bill C-14. This discussion was frank, emotional, and deeply personal. What was clear is that my constituents want action. They are concerned about public safety, they expect results, and they expect Parliament to do its job. Many residents asked why progress has stalled and why bills remain tied up in committee. They are frustrated, and they are right to be. Our government is responding to real concerns raised by communities, victims, and law enforcement. The delays are occurring in committee where an opposition party has chosen obstruction over collaboration. Prolonged procedural delays and filibustering do not make communities safer. They do not help victims. They do not reflect the urgency that Canadians are demanding. Canadians are asking us to work together and to deliver results. Bill C-14 is one important step towards strengthening public safety, and it deserves to move forward. It's time for the opposition to work constructively in committee so Parliament can deliver the action our communities are demanding.
The honourable member for Carlton Trail, Eagle Creek.
While the Prime Minister delivered her speech pointing out the gaps between rhetoric and reality on the world stage, the reality here at home is that Canadians can't eat speeches. Our food inflation is the highest in the G7 and the bill is in. Food costs are now up 6.2%, with groceries up 5%, and restaurant meals up 8.5% year over year. The PM's $78 billion deficit has turned Canada into the food inflation capital of the G7. Instead of delivering affordability, he insists on blaming tariffs from the U.S., which don't even apply to food costs in Canada. A quarter of Canadian households are considered food insecure, with over 2 million people visiting food banks in Canada monthly. And now it is estimated that a family of 4 will pay $1,000 more this year to eat. One thing is clear. Only Canada's Conservatives will put an end to Liberals' food inflation.
L'honorable député.
The honourable member for Longueuil Saint-Hubert. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to wish all of my colleagues a good start to the new session. I took advantage of this break to return to my riding of Longueuil Saint-Hubert to meet with businesses and community organizations. And everyone was very clear with us. They said continue to govern responsibly and coherently, even if that takes courage. They said, we're proud of you. Please continue the excellent work. And they said that to the Prime Minister. I would also like to take the opportunity to underline an unfortunate event. Last Friday, we learned that the former Member of Parliament, Jean Dorion, had died. He represented the riding of Longueuil Pierre Boucher at the time, which is now Longueuil Saint-Hubert. Regardless of political allegiance, we all recognize his commitment to public service. Thank you.
Cloverdale, Langley City.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has basically just admitted he's failing on affordability. It's so bad, he just had to announce another temporary boost to the GST credit. If prices were actually under control, Canadians wouldn't need another recycled Trudeau-era rebate to put food on the table. Canada now has the highest food inflation in the G7. Food bank use is at record levels, with millions of Canadians relying on emergency food just to feed their family. A tax rebate helps momentarily, but does nothing to address what is actually driving food costs. Carbon taxes on fuel and fertilizer. Clean fuel standard, industrial carbon taxes built into every step of the supply chain. The Prime Minister once told Canadians to judge his government by the price at the grocery store, but his policies have failed miserably, and no tax gimmick can hide
The honourable member for Cardigan.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to congratulate Canada's National Heritage Fair winners. Projects that highlight the curiosity and learning among our youth across this nation. One of the winning projects, by Cora Lukman, focused on women in farming. It celebrates the strength, the leadership, and the legacy of women in agriculture. Mr. Speaker, picture a young girl holding a bag of PEI potatoes, grown by her aunt in North Lake, packed by her grandfather just down the road, and sold by another aunt in Antigonish, Nova Scotia. This farm-to-table supply chain is rooted in family tradition that has sustained a seventh-generation farming family for over 150 years in PEI. Her grandfather summed it up best. He said, "My daughters are smart, they care about the land, and they work hard." That's what makes a good farmer. Today, 1 in 3 farmers in Canada are women. Wow. And more than half of all new farmers in Atlantic Canada are women. They're shaping the future of Canadian agriculture and inspire the next generation.
Oral questions, questions orales. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Let's get it going! Here we go.
Canadians deserve affordable groceries. But today, we have learned that food inflation in Canada is by far the highest in the G7. It's growing twice as fast as in the U.S., and food inflation has doubled since this Prime Minister came to power. These are, if it truly were external factors behind this, we wouldn't be the worst in the G7. When will the Prime Minister reverse his deficit inflationary taxes so that Canadians can have affordable groceries? The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, it's a pleasure to be back. And this Monday we have good news. The Canadian Groceries and Essentials benefits will help 12 million Canadians. And my Conservative friends are happy in their hearts, Mr. Speaker, because they know this represents roughly $1,800 for a family of four and roughly $950 for a single person this year. The Liberals support this and Canadians do. Will the Conservatives do as well?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, after food inflation has doubled under this Prime Minister, and with the worst food inflation in the G7, the checks that the Liberals are announcing today won't even pay for just one grocery shop. Yes, the reality is that the average family will have to spend $17,000 a year for grocery costs. When will the Prime Minister reverse his taxes and inflationary deficits so that Canadians can eat? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, first and above all, we would like to all express our solidarity with the Leader of the Opposition in this decisive week for him. I am certain he'll be able to convince a majority of his constituents to support his leadership. Second, we welcomed his openness with respect to the legislative measures before this House. And there is a bill that is the Prime Minister's plan for our economy to create jobs and opportunities in Canada. Can he give us a date when we'll be able to vote at third reading of the Budget Implementation Act?
Mr. Speaker, Canadians deserve affordable groceries, but under this Prime Minister's watch, food price inflation is the highest in the G7. It's twice as high as in the States, twice as high as when he took office. He can't blame global factors when it's rising faster than any other G7 country. The real cause is his rising taxes on farmers.
I'm going to allow the Honourable Leader of the Opposition to start that question over. I mean, we need guys. Start it over there. The Honourable Member of the Opposition. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Canadian people deserve affordable groceries. Liberals might laugh that off, but they've given Canada the worst food price inflation in the G7. It's rising twice as fast here in Canada as in the United States of America. 2.2 million people lined up at food banks. And since this Prime Minister said that he would make groceries affordable, the inflation rate has actually doubled. Will the Prime Minister finally reverse his inflationary deficits and taxes so Canadians can afford to eat?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we certainly want to wish the Leader of the Opposition well in this very decisive and important week for him, and we know that he will have success at his party's convention.
Best of luck. We're rooting for you.
The Prime Minister's plan to grow our economy, to create $1 trillion in investment, and to protect our workers and our industries from trade threats is before this House, Bill C-15. Now, we take very, very well the Leader's openness on working with us on legislation. Can he give us a date, just a date, the next words out of his mouth, give us the date where we can have third reading on the BIA, Mr. Speaker?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, Mr. Speaker, in the spirit of solidarity, why won't they agree with the Canadian people that we should get rid of all the hidden taxes that they've imposed on groceries? There's the Liberal fuel standard tax, which is 7 cents a litre on farmers, truckers, and those who bring us our food. There's the industrial carbon tax on farm equipment and fertilizer. All of this has given Canada the worst food price inflation in the G7. Our food costs are rising twice as fast as in the United States of America, and now they promise to recycle a Trudeau-era rebate that won't even cover one trip to the grocery store, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
I know that it's a particularly challenging week for the Leader of the Opposition, but let me help him because today we have good news for Canadians, Mr. Speaker. It's called the Canada Grocery and Essentials Benefit, Mr. Speaker. I know in his heart he's rejoicing, Mr. Speaker, because he's been asking questions in this House. Now we have delivered for Canadians, Mr. Speaker. The real question, all the Liberals MP are going to vote in favour. Canadians are in favour. Will the Conservative be good for their word and vote with us to help Canadians?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, only the Liberals would look at the $17,600 that the average family has to spend on groceries and say that it's a time to rejoice. They say that Canadians should be grateful that to be lined up in record numbers at the food bank. They think Canadians should thank them for having the highest food inflation in the G7, twice as bad as the United States of America. They think that Canadians should give Liberals gratitude for having doubled food price inflation since this Prime Minister was elected, promising to be judged by the prices at the grocery store. Why won't they reverse their Liberal taxes and debt so we can...
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Family.
Mr. Speaker, it's a good news for Canadians who are struggling today. In fact, up to $1,900 more for a Canadian family to help with those costs of living that the Conservatives have been talking about all fall, Mr. Speaker. In fact, the MP from Edmonton, Manning, told a story about Enid, who is struggling with the cost of groceries. Is he going to vote against Enid's desire to have more money to buy groceries?
Wow. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the reality is that Eden is paying, and his family are paying a record high price. If Eden is part of a family of four, that family will spend over $17,000 on groceries this year. That's $1,000 more than they did last year. That's the fastest increase in the G7. And now the Prime Minister has revived a Trudeau-era rebate, which we'll let pass, that will barely cover a few trips to the grocery store, while the average family spends $17,000+ Why doesn't the Liberals stop increasing grocery prices by getting rid of their inflationary deficits and taxes on food?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I know that the Leader of the Opposition is a bit concerned about the week ahead, but let me quote a letter he sent us on January 24th, Mr. Speaker. We wouldn't assume that he would be good for his words. He said, if you have other ideas that make food affordable, we will fast-track them, Mr. Speaker. Well, I have good news for him. It's called the Canada Grocery and Essentials Benefit, Mr. Speaker, helping 12 million Canadians. The question we have on this side, will he stand up in this House? Will he be good for his word and support 12 million Canadians that are expecting this government and this House to support them?
The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, Quebecers and French Canadians learned something new last Thursday. According to the Prime Minister, the Battle of the Plains of Abraham was not a conquest by the English. It was the beginning of a great partnership. According to him, the ancestors of Quebecers and English Canadians rose from the battlefield that morning and said to each other, guys, let's stop fighting, celebrate our differences, and build Canada. Mr. Speaker, if the Prime Minister wants to create some new heritage minutes, will he review his history rather than rewrite it? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, English Canadians and French Canadians built a very great country, one that is the best in the world. We created great prosperity and mutual respect for our official languages and human rights, Mr. Speaker. No one, not the Bloc, will minimize this accomplishment. Nevertheless, Mr. Speaker, we're going to continue to work with what concerns Quebecers, i.e. affordability, job creation, prosperity creation together, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, if you listen to the Prime Minister, When French was banned from being taught in the Maritimes, in Manitoba, in Saskatchewan, in Alberta, and in Ontario, it wasn't to erase us, no. It was to bring us together. When Quebecers were excluded from power and business, it was for their own good. When the founder of Canada said that Louis Riel would be hanged even if all the dogs in Quebec barked in his favor, we just misrepresented his love of pooches. Mr. Speaker, when is this Prime Minister going to learn our history for real? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, she's talking to a Government House Leader that is the proud ancestor of Scottish immigrants who studied in French in Prince Edward Island, who did his undergrad at the Acadian University in Moncton, and who lives his life in French, and who was elected 4 times in a riding that is 90% francophone. That is possible in Canada when we have mutual respect between Anglophones, and we've created the best country in the world. Vive le Canada. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, a little reminder historically. There's a reason why these questions are being asked in a parliament here in Ottawa. It's because English speakers preferred to burn down the parliament in Montreal rather than compensate French Canadians who had their farms burned during the 1837 rebellion. What a terrible partnership. The Liberal lieutenant from Quebec defended the Prime Minister by saying that it was just a different perspective on history. Well, history is facts, not opinions. So instead of defending these alternative facts from the Prime Minister, will we teach him our history? The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, I've noticed that my Bloc colleagues were talking about history, but I can tell you one thing that Canadians want to talk about and Quebecers want to talk about. That's talking about their city. Right now, those people in my riding in Quebec, they want a government that is building the future. They want investment and support for families because Quebecers' first priority is affordability. And today, we're showing up with the Canadian grocery benefit to put food on the table. We'll always be here to defend Quebec and Quebecers.
Regina Capel. The Prime Minister asked to be judged on inflation on grocery prices. Well, food inflation has doubled to the highest in the G7 and has doubled the U.S. rate. This is a homegrown problem of high Liberal taxes on farmers, fertilizer and food processors, and rampant inflationary deficits. Today's recycled Trudeau-era rebate will barely cover one trip to the store for the average family. They now need to spend over $17,000 a year on groceries. It didn't work when Trudeau tried it. Prices kept rising. There's nothing in today's announcement that will make anything cost less. So instead of temporary measures, why not permanently scrap Liberal hidden taxes that drive up food costs?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, while that leader focuses on hanging on to his leadership, we're focused on affordability for Canadians. Our new groceries and essentials benefit will help more than 12 million Canadians with food inflation. That's $1,900 for a family of 4, Mr. Speaker. It's time for the Conservatives. It's time for Canadians to tell Conservatives to stop the obstruction. Let's build Canada together. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Regina Capel.
Your plan didn't work for Justin Trudeau. I don't know why they think it will work today. And earlier today, the Prime Minister tried to blame inflation on global factors, but all the other countries in the G7 have lower food inflation than Canada. The Liberal fuel standards tax didn't invade us from another country. That already adds 7 cents a litre and is set to rise to 17. The industrial Liberal carbon tax didn't come from away either. Working families who can't afford beef know that today's announcement won't even cover one trip to the grocery store. So why not stop trying recycling failed Trudeau policies and adopt common sense Conservative measures to scrap Liberal taxes on food?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, speaking of recycling, we've got the 2015 playbook here in 2026, and it's just not going to work. Canadians know that the environment, economy, trade, reconciliation, these are all related, and Canadians in Conservative ridings expect better than obstruction and speak and spell politics, where we get 1 of 5 answers to every problem. Listen, on this side, there's new programs for affordability, economic growth, building big things, and this is a big moment for for this country, I invite the members opposite to join us to see the world as it is and to build Canada strong.
The honourable member for Calgary East.
Canada first in the G7 for food inflation. Canada's food inflation is double the U.S. at 6.2%. Essentials like lettuce, beef, baby formula, and apples are all hit with Liberal inflation. Conservatives will fast-track any proposal that will reverse having the highest food inflation in the G7. That includes eliminating the industrial carbon tax, Liberal fuel standards, cutting red tape, and boosting competition. Will the Liberals introduce this immediately?
The Honourable Minister of Agriculture
Thank you, Mr.
and
Speaker. Mr. Speaker, our government is focused on delivering support where it's needed. I can't understand why the opposition is so against that, Mr. Speaker. By taking action now, we're helping farmers manage essential costs, improving affordability, strengthening a more resilient food system, Mr. Speaker. 12 million Canadians are going to be affected by this, Mr.
Right.
Speaker. It's going to help our domestic production, it's going to help our farmers and ranchers, and it's going to help our economy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Calgary East.
Giving Canadians the money back the Liberals took from them in the first place doesn't lower grocery costs. The Prime Minister can't blame global factors either, when all other G7 nations have lower food inflation than Canada does. Liberals raise taxes on farmers, fertilizer, food processors, all while doubling the deficit. Will the Liberals reverse these failed policies, or is having the highest food inflation in the G7 the only Liberal promise they're willing to keep?
The Honourable Minister for Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovation.
Well, the party of no, Mr. Speaker, keeps standing in the way of bringing down the cost of living for Canadians. We're saying yes. Today, the groceries and essential benefit will give 12 million Canadians support
Sit
to put
down
food
and
on
shut
the table,
up.
saving the average family of four almost $1,900 and the average individual almost $900. We're saying yes to supporting families. We're saying yes to making life more affordable. We're saying yes to real solutions. Why doesn't the party of no support Canadians and start saying yes as well?
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands.
The Prime Minister said a country that can't feed itself, fuel itself, or defend itself has few options. And he's right. And Canadians are looking for the Prime Minister's words to match his actions. Now, tomorrow, Conservatives are going to introduce a motion to pass the Canadian Sovereignty Act. It's going to cut taxes and it's going to let investors invest and builders build. The question is very simple. At this critical time for our country, will the government say yes, and will they support the Canadian Sovereignty Act?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, there is a bill before this Parliament that lets investors invest, that lets builders build, and in fact attracts $1 trillion, with a T, $1 trillion of investment in our country that will protect our workers and build our industries. It is the Budget Implementation Act. Now, Canadians in Conservative ridings are telling us they want this Parliament to work, that they want to endorse the Prime Minister's plan to create growth in this country. Can that member give us a date, just a date, where we will have third reading and pass the Prime Minister's plan for prosperity in Canada?
The Honourable Member for Charlesbourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister seems open to our proposal to move faster to help Canadians. That's fantastic. But he's also promised affordable groceries for Canadians. On this side of the House, we're eager to quickly pass proposals aimed at reversing food inflation, such as measures that stimulate competition in the food chain. Tomorrow, we'll table a motion to pass the Canadian Sovereignty Act. Will your government table legislation to reduce the cost of groceries? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, I'm very happy to rise and wish everyone a happy new year. And it's already a good year for Canadians. Today, more than 12 million Canadians will see their purchasing power increase. That's what they need to face rising prices in grocery stores, greater purchasing power. And that's our objective. I hope my colleagues will support us in this action. I'd like to thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Charlesbourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, we already said we'd pass this, but we need to go further. And it's time to reward businesses and workers who build and invest in Canada. And we must protect Canadian innovation. We are proposing creating a tax credit for reinvestment in Canada to stimulate domestic industrial activity, and protecting Canadian innovation by requiring the Minister of Industry to present a plan to prevent the sale of Canadian innovations, discoveries, and innovations to other countries. Will you support our motion and introduce a bill to this effect?
Honourable Minister of Indigenous Services.
Bonjour, tout le monde.
Hello, everyone. Happy New Year, Mr. Speaker. We're working together on new measures to help families and to put food on the table. In my riding, a single mother of a family will see her purchasing power increase, and also there'll be new measures to help her buy shoes and pay for daycare after school. It won't just be helping people on my riding, but also it'll be the same thing on the other side of the house in their ridings. So I would ask them to work with us. And inaudible. The Honourable Member for Drummond. Mr. Speaker, it was on a sunny day in September 1759 that the beautiful partnership between the French and the English began. This beautiful friendship, born on the plains of Abraham, would give rise to moments filled with affection: the ban on French in schools, the hanging of the Patriots, the Durham Report, the execution of Louis Riel, the Quebec City riot during conscription, the War Measures Acts, the Night of the Long Knives, and the failure of the Meech Lake Accord, and so on. Could it be that this Prime Minister is unfamiliar with the history of Quebecers and Francophones? He has no knowledge of it in Canada. The Honourable Minister of Canadian Identity and Culture. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, I'd like to wish a Happy New Year to the Bloc, or their militant arm of the Parti Québécois. Well, I think what bothers them the most is the Prime Minister's message was a national one. But I'd like to ask them a question. Did they ask permission from Mr. Plamondon to ask their question? Because he's going to move on to something else. He is having an argument with the bonhomme of the Quebec Carnival. You can't invent that. The Honourable Member for Drummond. Mr. Speaker, they're rewriting the facts. It's contagious and spreading through the entire Liberal caucus. And according to the Prime Minister, Montcalm declared on his deathbed, "I die disappointed because I will not live to see the surrender of English in Quebec." The truth is that we were conquered, and since then the federal government is just trying to keep us in line. But the Prime Minister has chosen to rewrite history, assuming that Quebecers do not know it. And instead of spouting nonsense about the Plains of Abraham and insulting our intelligence, what is the Prime Minister waiting for? To pick up a book and learn a bit more about Quebec. It's about time. The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, Quebecers have been telling us out loud to work on affordability and help them make ends meet at the end of the month, to take efforts on rent, on lodging, and to protect our industries such as softwood lumber, aluminum, and in general, to prevent them from tariff threats in a very complex world while still protecting their culture and language, Mr. Speaker. And that is what the federal government and the Liberal Party are doing this year.
The Honourable Member for Long Range Mountains.
Mr. Speaker, Stats Canada confirms what Canadian families already know at the checkout. Food inflation has jumped by 6.2% in the last year. Grocery prices are up 5%, and Canada now has the highest food inflation in the G7. Newfoundland and Labrador has the second highest food inflation rate in the entire country, and higher transportation costs mean local families are hit even harder. Conservatives are ready to fast-track measures to bring food prices down. So will the government eliminate the industrial carbon tax and the 17 cents a litre fuel standards tax so Canadians can afford the basics?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
And I wish the member opposite, the opposition member from Newfoundland and Labrador, Happy New Year. And I want to just give a couple of stats. The Canada Groceries and Essential Benefit, specific for our province. A family of 4 this year will get over $1,890. And then the next 4 years, $1,400 a year. A single person, $950 with the top up, and then $700 going forward. Per constituents are telling me they want action, stop the obstruction, and work for the people.
The honourable member for Long Range Mountain.
We are ready to work with the government on real long-term solutions instead of recycled temporary Trudeau-era rebates. Canada has been called the food inflation capital of the G7. Mr. Speaker, that's real hardship. People back home ask me, how far does this have to go before it stops? The Prime Minister can't blame global factors when all other countries have lower food price inflation than Canada. It's a homegrown problem of high Liberal taxes. So will this government focus on actually bringing down food prices, or will it defend policies that make food more expensive?
The Honourable Minister.
Speaker, and I'll tell you what's recycled. And the tired notes that the Conservative members and from Newfoundland and Labrador as well just continue to repeat. The point is they consistently vote against support that help families, help the people that they talk about in their ridings, that I hear from, that want them to support. Stop the nonsense, work together, and let's grow Canada.
Member for Cambridge.
Mr. Speaker, Canada is now the inflation capital of the G7. Food prices are rising faster than families can keep up, twice the rate of the U.S. And recycled Trudeau-era rebates do not fix the problem. Canadians can't eat the paper on which this Prime Minister's empty promises are written. Restaurants are being squeezed out of business with higher food costs, and Canadians are cutting back because they can't afford to eat. Conservatives are ready to work on long-term solutions Canadians can feel at the checkout, like cutting the industrial carbon tax and the fuel standard tax to bring prices down. Will the Prime Minister work with us, or does he consider the food bank the new order of fine dining for Canadians?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, $1,900 per family is real money that will help Canadians pay for groceries, pay for schools, pay for their activities for their children, Mr. Speaker. Canadians in Conservative-held ridings want to benefit from this support from our government. Right. Why are the Conservatives blocking systematically every time we want to help Canadians?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, it's expensive to eat in Canada, and it costs a lot more here than elsewhere. There's no other country in the G7 where it costs more to eat than in Canada. Ground beef, you can't afford it anymore. It's 70% more expensive. Apples are up by 10%, lettuce by 13%, oranges up by 15%, ground coffee 42%. Mr. Speaker, is the Liberal government in the tomato business? Because that's the only thing that's gone down. The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, coming from a star on Infoman, I'm not surprised to hear that question, Mr. Speaker. But, you know, I have a lot of admiration for that colleague, but he's a bit behind. He's a few days behind because now we have the Canada Groceries and Essentials benefit. Young people are happy about it, Mr. Speaker, and I know that in his heart the member is happy that we have it as well. But is he going to rise in this House and help the 12 million Canadians vote in favour of that measure and say that the Liberal government's doing good things for Canadians? The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, you don't buy votes, you earn them. The most recent data shows that food inflation is up by 6.2%, putting Canada first place in food inflation in the G7. The Prime Minister can't blame the rest of the planet. This is a homegrown problem caused by high Liberal taxes on our farmers. Mr. Speaker, will the government immediately commit to tabling a law which will eliminate the hidden taxes on food? The Honourable Minister of Indigenous Services. Mr. Speaker, I would like to ensure that my colleague understands that we're here to help Canadians, not just with food, but also with the cost of living. For example, daycare costs. Costs that are hard to plan for. Mr. Speaker, we ask our colleagues to follow what their leader said in his open letter. I ask them to be open to working with the government to help 12 million Canadians. Please.
The honourable member for South Shore St. Margaret's.
Mr. Speaker, when I was back home in my riding, I had many conversations with people in my community about how important the school food program was to families in my riding of South Shore St. Margaret's. Can the Minister of Environment, Climate Change and Nature please update the House on how the government will deliver real, near-term relief for Canadians facing higher costs of living? Thank you.
Minister of Environment, Climate Change and Nature.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I think it's great because the member from South Shore St. Mark's is going to be able to go back home this weekend and talk to families about the Canada Groceries and Essentials benefit. That is going to help a family of four with almost $1,900 a year. That's going to help over 12 million people right across the country. It's her hard work that's delivering these results. Not only that, we have made the National School Food Program permanent, the dental benefit supporting families, excellent. Canada Child Care, and the Canada Child Benefit. There's such a long list. I could go on forever. We're going to continue working for Canadians.
The honourable member for Bellechasse-les-Etchemins-Lévis. Eating healthily has become a luxury, Mr. Speaker. The numbers hurt. The price of beef is up by 16.8%, lettuce 12.8%, apples 10%. Under this government, preparing a simple salad has become a major investment, Mr. Speaker. Even coffee's 41% more expensive. When will the government stop taxing our farmers and our truckers? And will it commit today to cutting the industrial carbon tax and the tax on fuel standards? The Honourable Minister of Health. Well, I would like to thank my colleague for her question. And as Minister of Health, I absolutely want Canadians to eat well. And that is why we've put in place this measure today that will give Canadians more money in their pockets to help them get through these difficult times. So, as I was saying, in my riding, a family of four needs this help, and they'll receive almost $1,900 this year. So we are taking measures to help Canadians transition through this difficult time. The honourable member for Bellechasse-les-Etchemins-Lévis. Mr. Speaker, the Liberal announcement this morning is just a Band-Aid. It's not a real solution for the 2.2 million Canadians who are going to continue to go to food banks. Canada has the highest food inflation in the G7 because of Liberal taxes. And it's killing local businesses. 7,000 restaurants closed in 2025. 4,000 more will probably close this year. Will the government eliminate the tax that is making transport more expensive and making food more expensive? The Honourable Secretary of State for Youth. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are helping Canadians with the cost of living by reducing costs with a rebate of almost $1,900 for a family four. That's on top of other investments like the tax cut for 22 million Canadians and a savings of $800 for children with young kids who benefit from the school food program. We're there to help Canadians and families go forward. The Conservative Party should stop with these games of obstruction in Parliament and support these initiatives.
Honourable member for Oshawa.
Mr. Speaker, if we judge the Prime Minister by prices at the grocery store, as he said, he's failed. Canada's food inflation now sits at 6.2%, the highest in the G7. Conservatives are ready to fast-track real relief by scrapping the industrial carbon tax, eliminating the ever-increasing fuel standards tax, boosting competition in grocery stores, and cutting red tape for farmers. When will the Prime Minister stop offering Band-Aid solutions and work with Conservatives to bring food prices down once and for all?
Well said. Secretary of State for Sport.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The Canadian Groceries and Essentials benefit will put food directly onto the tables of hardworking Canadian families. And not just a few, Mr. Speaker. We're talking about 12 million Canadians, Mr. Speaker. But only Conservatives are willing to stand in the way of affordability for families that need a little bit of help, Mr. Speaker. This Liberal government has the backs of Canadians. Well, that Conservative leader turned his back on helping Canadians a long, long time ago. Now, Mr. Speaker, I know that Conservative leader is obsessed with his grip on power right now and probably can't focus on much else. But if he could focus on what Canadians need and helping them out at the grocery store, we could use his vote. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Oshawa.
Mr. Speaker, enough with the temporary and recycled Trudeau-era rebates, and enough with blaming global factors when all the other countries have lower food price inflation than Canada.
Yep.
This is a homegrown problem, and we need long-term solutions. My recent visit to Simcoe Hall Food Bank with the Conservative leader was yet another reminder that more working families are struggling and visiting food banks. Will the Prime Minister stop treating the House of Commons as the House of Elites and finally work with Conservatives to bring food prices down for Canadians?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Sport.
Mr. Speaker, it's always pretty fresh to hear the Conservatives talk about elitism when they're talking down supports for hardworking Canadians, Mr. Speaker. 12 million Canadians are going to benefit from the Canadian Groceries and Essentials benefit, Mr. Speaker. And from a personal perspective, when my hardworking single mom got that benefit 4 times a year, that meant running shoes for me and my brother. That meant guitar lessons for me and my brother. That meant fresher food and maybe a trip to Swiss Chalet, Mr. Speaker. But those Conservatives have never cared about affordability or lower income families, Mr. Speaker. They're only here to help their rich oil and gas friends with this nonsense on hidden taxes that doesn't exist, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
Mr. Speaker, Canada now faces the highest food inflation in the G7. The government's response has relied largely on short-term relief measures that may ease pressure temporarily but do nothing to address the underlying drivers of rising food costs. Food affordability requires deeper structural action. Conservatives have put forward practical solutions, including eliminating the industrial carbon tax and fuel standards tax, boosting competition in the grocery sector, and cutting red tape for farmers. So will the government work with Conservatives to deliver lasting relief for Canadian families? Great question.
Honourable Secretary of State for Labour.
Day one, our focus has been on lowering costs for families and putting money in their pockets. Today's announcement of the new Canada Groceries and Essentials benefit will give Canadians the relief they need. But more than that, Mr. Speaker, we have delivered a tax cut. We have protected the Canada Child benefit and grew it. We reduced childcare costs. We have cut the carbon tax, Mr. Speaker. We've delivered dental care. Building Canada Homes. We're building low affordable housing, Mr. Speaker. Made the National Food School Food Program permanent. Mr. Speaker, my question is, voters in Vaughan want this stuff. Why is the member obstructing? Get out of the way.
The Honourable Member for Battleford, Lloydminster, Meadow Lake.
Well, Mr. Speaker, if those measures worked, Canadians would actually be able to afford their groceries. Yes. Lettuce is up 12%, beef 16%, apples 10%, and even baby formula is up another 6%. After 10 years of Liberal inflation and taxes, Canada now leads the G7 with the highest food inflation. Conservatives are ready to fast-track solutions. Eliminate the industrial carbon tax, cut the fuel standards tax, boost grocery competition, and cut red tape for farmers. Yes. Will the Liberal government introduce legislation to implement these solutions and to work with us to finally lower the price of food for Canadians?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Northern and Arctic Affairs. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm not sure which Saskatchewan people that member is speaking with, Mr. Speaker, but the Saskatchewan people that I'm speaking to, they talk about the $10 a day daycare. They talk about the reduction of GSTs on home. They talk about the school food program. Now they'll talk about the Canada Groceries and Essential benefit, $11.7 billion that'll help many Saskatchewan families, Mr. Speaker. Saskatchewan families don't ask for much, just a fair shot and some breathing room at the end of the month, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Oxford.
Liberal laws ended mandatory jail time for extortionists and released repeat violent offenders back on our streets. Since then, violent crime has doubled and extortion is up over 350%. Businesses, media studios, and homes are being shot at. Literally, we're seeing bullets fly through the bedrooms of our children. Canadians are terrified, and they feel like they're the ones on house arrest while the criminals walk free. So when will this Liberal government stop making excuses, work with us, take action, and protect Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, at the outset, let me just thank and congratulate the members of the RCMP for their work in the arrest of Ryan Wedding in collaboration with the FBI, Mr. Speaker.
Brian Wedding was the #1 wanted person in the United States, and this is the type of collaboration that law enforcement in Canada, working with the United States, can achieve. To the member's question, Mr. Speaker, we have 6 bills in front of the House that deal with public safety. The obstruction of the Conservative Party in passing not a single one of them is atrocious, Mr. Speaker. I invite the member opposite to pass these bills today.
The honourable member for Mission, Mapsquet, Abbotsford.
Mr. Speaker, extortion cases are exploding, and it's a full-on crisis. In Surrey alone, police are responding to more than 1 case a day. Families and small businesses are terrified. Truckers are feeling the heat, and people feel abandoned by Justice Canada. After years of Liberal promises, the results speak for themselves. Crime is up and criminals walk free. Bill C5 and C75 strip mandatory minimums and entrench catch-and-release policies. When will this government work in good faith with the Conservatives to eliminate mandatory minimums for extortionists and repeal the catch-and-release laws that are hurting our country?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, it is easy to make mistakes when you read a question that was handed to you from your party's whip, rather than actually do research to understand the facts on the ground. If the honourable member actually surveyed the statistics on violent crime in Canada, he would see the last 2 years there has been a reduction of crime in this country. The bills he points to actually made it harder for someone to get bail if they were charged with offences touching on intimate partner violence, and made house arrest impossible for serious charges, including advocating genocide, torture, and murder. Mr. Speaker, we have put forward a plan that is going to treat violent repeat criminals with serious laws that help protect communities against crime. I hope the Conservatives.
The honourable member for Abbotsford South Langley.
Mr. Speaker, since January 1st, there's been a minimum of 1 extortion case every single day in the Lower Mainland. Wow. These are real consequences of the Liberals' failure to take crime seriously. Families and businesses across Abbotsford and Surrey are terrified, and entire communities are living in fear. It's time for the Liberals to fix their soft on crime laws that have failed to keep innocent Canadians safe. When will the Liberals stop delaying, finally work with us, and restore mandatory minimum for extortionists and repeal their catch-and-release laws C5 and C75?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, in Canada, someone who commits extortion can serve up to 25 years in prison.
That's right.
We have the laws in place, Mr. Speaker, but we're going to improve on those laws. That's why we've put forward a bail and sentencing reform. I'm glad to see that it's progressing through committee. But one law, in fact, Mr. Speaker, that can really help in these cases is lawful access. It was the second bill we presented in this House. The Conservatives have been obstructing it all along. We had several different summits across this country, and what did law enforcement ask for? They asked for lawful access, Mr. Speaker. Stop the obstruction.
The honourable member for Beauport-Limoilou. Mr. Speaker, in Beauport-Limoilou, as across the country, the cost of living is too high for many families. Our government has already taken concrete steps, such as cutting the consumer carbon tax, putting in place a tax cut for 20 million middle-class Canadians, and cutting the GST for first-time homebuyers. But we know that we can and should do more to help Canadians deal with inflation. Can the Minister of Finance please inform this House of concrete measures that we are taking to support families in Beauport-Limoilou and across the country? The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague for that excellent question, because he's really shown Canadians all of the measures that we've taken to help people. And today, Mr. Speaker, it's 12 million Canadians across the country who can celebrate because we've put in place the new Canada Groceries and Essentials benefit. Mr. Speaker, this is going to make a real difference for families. It's going to allow the mum of a single family, to buy food, clothes for her kids. It's going to help Canadians across the country. We're always going to be there to help Canadians, and we're always going to build strong communities.
Island Powell River.
Mr. Speaker, last week was a devastating one for forestry workers and their families on Vancouver Island. Just outside Port McNeill, the Atlee chip plant announced it would be permanently closed. Curtailments announced in Ladysmith and Saltaire, and at the iconic Chemainus sawmill where my grandfather worked for 20 years. These were good-paying jobs, the type that built communities up and down Vancouver Island and right across BC. This government promised to stand with these workers, to have their backs. Instead, mills keep on closing, workers laid off. When will this government's actions and results finally live up to its rhetoric and its words?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. This government stands with forestry workers. We've announced $2.5 billion in supports. We have a task force active right now looking at additional supports. I was in Prince George last week. Members in Conservative ridings want results. And I want to tell you a little bit of a story, Mr. Speaker. Last time we talked about this in the House of Commons, we got suggestions from the NDP. We put them into effect. We got suggestions from the Bloc. We put them into effect. We got no suggestions from the Conservatives. We want their help. We want to support this sector. We're tired of hearing noun, verb, and no solution every time these guys open their mouth.
The Honourable Member for North Island, Powell River.
Here's a suggestion, Mr. Speaker. Drop the ideological 30 by 30 that stops forestry workers from doing their job. I appreciate my colleagues' comments on this issue. I do appreciate the government's promises of support, but forestry workers in my riding and across BC can't eat Liberal promises, and they can't pay their mortgage with a Liberal speech. They need action. They need results. They need this government to actually deliver something. Literally thousands of jobs have been lost. How many more mills have to close? How many more people have to be put out of work before this Liberal government steps up and takes this crisis?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
30 by 30, I can't think of a more out-of-touch comment. They're clearly not talking to people on the ground. These are not the challenges the sector faces. We need solutions, not obstruction from the members opposite. I am welcoming them to work with us. We want to help them out. We need their help because they are the people on the ground representing Conservative ridings with mills, and we're not hearing from them. They deserve better, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Kenora Kiwetinung.
Pierre Falls Sawmill has been shut down since October. The Ignace Mill is expected to close in March, and now 150 people will be affected by the closure of a line at Thunder Bay Pulp and Paper. Mr. Speaker, every day more closures are announced, and these are good-paying jobs for hard-working Canadians that are now gone. The government's rhetoric about supporting workers is not matching the reality of the workers who are losing their jobs. Conservatives stand ready in this House to support government actions that will save forestry jobs. So, Mr. Speaker, when will we finally see some action from this Liberal government?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, forestry, mill jobs, the forest sector in Canada is part of the very fibre of our country, part of the very fibre of our communities. The Parliamentary Secretary just outlined the many measures that we are putting in place to make sure that we protect those workers and those facilities against what is an ill-advised trade war that only increases the costs of housing in the United States and elsewhere. We're going to put those people to work producing wood, mass timber, building homes, Mr. Speaker. We're going to do that in the face of Conservative.
The Honourable Member for Labrador.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians have a proud history of standing with our allies during combat missions and during peacekeeping exercises. In my riding of Labrador, home of Canadian Forces Base Goose Bay, many families serve our country or stand behind our loved ones who do. When Canada's contributions are mischaracterized or minimized, it's important to set the record straight. Can the Minister of Veteran Affairs tell the House how Canada has stood alongside our allies and how we properly commemorate and recognize our veterans? Thank you.
Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I thank my colleague from Labrador for the question. When NATO invoked Article 5 after 9/11, we fought the Taliban alongside our allies in Afghanistan. 40,000 Canadians deployed. 158 CAF soldiers made the ultimate sacrifice. Wow. 30 Canadian soldiers received the U.S. Bronze Star for their bravery. The Canadian Armed Forces have and continue to make invaluable contributions around the world. As a nation, Canada will always stand with our allies, including the U.S., As Canadians, we stand behind the women and men in uniform who serve.
The honourable member for Selkirk, Interlake, Eastman.
Every drop of Canada's iconic award-winning Crown Royal whiskey is proudly made in Gimli, Manitoba, using Manitoba grains and pure Interlake water. Unfortunately, Manitoba employees and farmers are worried because the government of Ontario is threatening to pull Crown Royal off the shelves of their liquor stores. The Prime Minister incorrectly claimed he has torn down interprovincial trade barriers when in fact he's been sitting on the sideline, and his silence on Ontario's threat to Manitoba is deafening. Will the Liberals stand up for Canadian jobs and pass the Conservatives' Canadian Sovereignty Act to remove barriers to interprovincial free trade?
The Honourable Minister responsible for Canada-U.S. economic relations.
Mr. Speaker, I want to begin by wishing colleagues, of course, a Happy New Year, and particularly our friend from Manitoba who just asked the question, to thank the Conservative Party for their support last June in passing federal legislation in this House, Mr. Speaker, which did exactly that, eliminated all federal barriers to interprovincial trade. Now, Mr. Speaker, the challenge is to work with our partners in the provinces. Good news, the Prime Minister has the Premiers for dinner in Ottawa on Wednesday, an all-day meeting on Thursday, and we will be discussing exactly those issues of continuing to remove those barriers.
The honourable member for Edmonton Strathcona.
In Edmonton, Strathcona, and across the country cannot wait until June to get help with their groceries. In 2022, the House passed legislation and there was an emergency payment done in weeks. Instead of making Canadians wait for months, will the Prime Minister work with the NDP to get help for Canadians immediately? And, Mr. Speaker, if they are interested in lowering the rate for groceries, will they please take the GST off all grocery essentials, finally impose a price tag and tax excess profits to stop Canadians getting gouged by big corporate interests? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister for Emergency Management and Community Resilience.
Mr. Speaker, this morning the Prime Minister introduced the new Canada Groceries and Essential Benefits. I look forward to returning to Alberta this weekend and sharing with my constituents that a family
This
of four
chick is a
receive
creep.
up to almost $1,900 to help pay for groceries and other essentials. This is the kind of support Canadians are looking for. As Canadians, we look after each other. We're asking the opposition members to help us do just that.
I wish to draw the attention of members to the presence in the gallery of the recipients of the 2025 Governor General's History Awards.
Aren't they so special? Like, again, just want to wrap it up right here. Like, we just watched that. How much nonsense can they jam down your throat? I don't know. We're going to watch and see, I guess. Like, my name's Aaron. This is Canadian Looney. We cover Canadian federal politics here, and it's especially frustrating right now because we have this weak-ass bullshit liberal government that keeps saying they're trying to protect us as they're selling us out to everybody that will take a piece of the pie. Like, it's disgusting. Mark Carney is a treasonous prime minister. There's no doubt about that. He's a liar. Did he back up even one promise that he made in his campaign? Not one. There's more division across the country, and that's on purpose. That's fine. We're going to expose it. My name's Aaron, Canadian Looney. Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. It's been a great afternoon of reconnecting with so many people that are on the same page, rowing in the same direction, like critical thinkers that are called conspiracy theorists. But the fact of the matter is, they're just people that are informed on what is going on. It's an uphill battle. We'll continue to fight that. Fighting uphill. I guess maybe that's what we're doing. Anyhow, we're going to wrap it up right here, gang. We always like to go out on this. So we're going to. As soon as my computer's running slow.
You should do exercises. That's important to our good health. And friends, tomorrow we are going to be visiting with a fisherman who will tell us about his very enjoyable hobby. Now, I would like to see you all through our magic mirror. Romper bumper, stomper boo, tell me, do. Magic mirror, please tell me today, did all of my friends have fun at play? I see all of my friends in Alberta. It's nice to see you. And I see Dan and Vivian. I see Marlon and Mona. I see Catherine and Harley. I see Anne and Elizabeth and Jane. I see Bert and Nicole, and I see you too. I hope to see you tomorrow, right here in Romper Room.
Ding dong, knock knock, hey daddy do. Bing bong, tick tock, bebop boom.
Kick off your weekend with exciting CFL action when the Edmonton Eskimos tackle the BC Lions in Vancouver. Tomorrow night at 10:30 on CFTO TV.
Ding